What are you doing? Okay. I have a video on how to wear makeup with hats, or how to do your makeup for a hat. This is really centered around this dad hat, but you know, this could go for beanies, sombreros, sun hats, regular hats. I do not know. Top hats. I teach you everything. Okay, I hope you like this video. I hope I wasn't too awkward in it. Start out with a primed face. My face is already moisturized, but I'm going to go in with a second moisturizer because I'm just extra. So, when it comes to the face, you want to focus on doing light layers, because if you build it up, if you do something really cakey, when you put on the hat, it's kind of just gonna like, it's gonna just, what do you call it? It's gonna like rub it off in a way, in a sense. So you want to keep things really thin, especially in this forehead region. So I would recommend using a light to medium coverage foundation. That's what works best. And you really, like, my skin isn't horrible, but it's not the best. And when I wear the hat, especially like this dad hat, you can't really tell because of the shadow that the hat casts. So keep that in mind. If you're wearing a beanie, it's obviously different. This is definitely depending on the hat you are wearing. This video is definitely more centered towards the dad hat because that's what I'm wearing today, and I got the idea from my outfit, but that's what you want to do. And then on top of that, personally what I would do is I would go for a more matte foundation. You want to go for something that's not super dewy, especially if you're not going to be setting your face, because what happens is, because of all the oils in that foundation, it creates a more movable base, and it just gets everywhere, especially when you have the hat on. It's definitely going to transfer onto your hat, and how many times can I say hat in this video? So it's going to transfer on your hat, and then it's just going to get everywhere. So try to go for something a little bit more matte. I am going to be setting my face today a lot, so I will be going in with something a little bit more luminous, but because I'm going to be locking everything in with the powders, it's really going to absorb the oil, and that's what's going to make it matte. So, you know, if you're not going to go in with powder, which I do recommend, go for something that's more on the drier matte finish. Just basically make sure that your whatever foundation you're using is lightweight, it's thin, it doesn't move around, so make sure it dries down. So when I apply the foundation, I'm using a stippling brush because this will definitely shear the coverage out a lot, and it will keep the layer quite thin. I'm using the Nars Sheer Glow foundation. This isn't very glowy. In fact, I find it to be more of a satin finish, and especially when it comes to the forehead, you'll notice that I'm really keeping everything light. So the majority of the coverage, and I do this really every day even when I'm not wearing a hat, I keep the majority of the coverage from the eyes down, and whatever's left over on the brush, I'll just dust it over, and I won't really go in with any additional product. So I'm really just attempting to even out this, but I'm not trying to get any coverage up here. Once you're done with your base, I would definitely recommend going in with a damp beauty sponge and tapping over it just to make sure that any of the excess product is is absorbed. Like I said, you definitely want, I'm really going to stress this throughout the whole video, you want to keep things light so that the hat doesn't take it off. The lighter it is, the less chance there is of the hat moving it, and even if it does, then at least it won't be as drastic as a difference. So in that, I would also recommend using a foundation that is really close to your skin tone. And I say that because I know it might be kind of redundant, like, wouldn't you cover your face in the same color? Blah, blah, blah. When it comes to me, I definitely like to go in with the foundation a little bit darker, just to make myself look a little bit more, bronzed and, you know, tan. But, and even this, it's a little bit darker, but because we're going in with such thin layers, it's not going to be as obvious. So, good. Now moving on to concealer. Same thing, keeping things light. You can go a little bit heavier down here because the hat won't really be touching down here, or at least I hope. I don't know what kind of hat, you know, you're wearing. But it will also help correspond with up here, so you don't want it to be really heavy down here, and if you go to take your hat off, it will just look really uneven and unbalanced. So it's hard to say, it's really a preference, but if you're already there, why not continue with the trend? I'm just going to be using the Urban Decay Naked Concealers. These are really nice and luminous. Weightless finish. Like, there's a theme here. So you'll notice that I'm not applying the concealer to my forehead, which, especially when I'm going in with a lighter shade, I would do that. The reason I'm not doing that is, you probably can guess it, you're not really going to be able to see my forehead. So after I blend this all out, I'm just going to take whatever is left over on the sponge, and that's what I'm going to apply to my forehead, just to make sure that when I do take off my hat, there's still something there, but it's not going to be heavy or intense. So at this point, now that everything's for the most part blended in, I'm going to take it and I'm just going to dab over. That's really all I need. I can go in with my foundation brush and kind of add a little bit more if I really need it. This area might be showing depending on the hat you're wearing, but like I said, it's not a big deal. So I'm just going to run over everything and make sure it's all seamlessly blended in. So before I set my eyes, I'm going to do my highlight. Personally, I like doing my highlight before I set my base because it just makes it that much more blinding. And you know I love that. Because the highlighter goes onto a wet base, it really intensifies it. It's so gorgeous. And especially with this look, I don't know why, I just love how a blinding highlight looks with this. It just, so again, this is totally personal preference. You can do it after you set your base. You can go in with something, you don't even have to do it, but I'm going to. And I'm actually even going to go in with a liquid base, a liquid highlight base before I go in with the highlight to make it even more intense. So you definitely, but if you do go in with a liquid highlight, you definitely want to do this before you set your base. It kills me when I see all these beauty gurus and they go in with the liquid highlight after they set their base and then they're pissed at how it looks. I'm like, okay, but you're the one who rants all the time, no liquids, no creams on powders. But, and you know that you're not going to get a good outcome, but you get mad when you do, when you're not. What? Anyways, Marc Jacobs Dewdrops. I just like to take a little bit on the back of my hand, and these are super intense, and a little goes a long way. So I just like to put it on the back of my hand and run my finger in it and tap it on, and I find with my finger I get the best finish. These definitely do set quick, so definitely work fast. How many times can I say definitely? I just need a larger vocabulary. Then taking the ever so famous Champagne Pop. Yes. Okay. At this point now, I will go ahead and set my eyes. Set my face. I'm going to be using two powders. I haven't used this. This is a really mattifying powder. This is the BareMinerals Original Mineral Veil. I don't know. And I'm not going to set my eyes with that. But I'm gonna set my forehead because this is a kind of thicker consistency. So I'm just going ahead and set my forehead. Really pressing it into my hairline. You don't want to neglect this area. So just on my forehead and the perimeters on my face, I took that powder just because it's not very finely milled and it's really mattifying. So even though I am oily skin, I don't want to look dead. I don't want to look dry. So I just put that there. And then I'm going to go in with the Toofaced Born This Way powder because this gives me a more, not a natural finish. Well, I guess so. It's very beautiful on the skin. And I don't really have to worry about this area. So I'm just going to go in with the normal powder I would use. And set my face with that. And that's really extra if you don't have to use 2 different powders. Just use whatever works for you. Whatever mattifies you. God, tell me to highlight. In a way I will keep. I really have to pee. Okay, so this is the part that. Okay, so if you're not happy with the coverage that you have, if you're experiencing redness or, breakouts or scars coming through, this is the point where you can go ahead and fix that. I do this almost every day in my routine. Oftentimes I will do my makeup and then I'll realize, okay, I didn't go in with enough coverage here or here or here. Because it really does look different when you set it with powder. So I'll go in with a powder foundation. This one is Studio Fix by MAC. And I'll just put it in the places that I need more coverage. So I just take my damp sponge and go in with it. And I just press it. Because I usually get a lot of redness right here and I don't like how that looks. I'll just press it right there. In fact, I'll even go in with my powder brush just to buff it out. Since we're only going in with it right there, you kind of need to make sure it's blended. Or like right here. I usually won't do it right here, to be honest. I just don't even care. But I'll go in over my... Okay. Where did I leave off? Okay, so I just went on a drive. I ate dinner. I had habanero wings, so my nose is a little bit runny. And I came back, so my skin is still quite matte. I was gone for like maybe an hour, but I get really oily like fast. So the fact that I'm matte is kind of crazy to me. So we left off on me doing my highlight. What's next? Okay, well, at this point you could either continue with your face or your eyebrows. I think I'm gonna do my eyebrows really quick off camera, but before I do that, keep in mind that it doesn't really matter how you do your brows when it comes to the hat. It really does depend on the hat that you are wearing. If you're wearing a beanie, I mean, it's really all personal preference, and really just stick to what you normally do. Don't like completely change your brow shape for this, like that's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm gonna do is personally, I like when they're like really high is it arched or arced? I like that look when I'm wearing a hat, and I like them to look really fluffy. You can't see the tail, so I don't spend a lot of time on that. It's just gonna rub off anyways. But yeah, just do whatever you are comfortable with and whatever you like. Don't completely base this off of me. It's all about trial and error. I'm just here to give you tips so that you have a certain guide when you do your makeup for this. Does that make sense? Brows are finished and I'm looking like a man right now. Not really what I'm into, but I'm gonna go ahead I'm going to finish the face and then we'll go on to the eyes. The face, you pretty much do like normal. Same thing, avoiding the forehead too much. It's really, this isn't really that difficult or complex. There's not that many things different. It's really just light layers, foundation. So I think I'm going to go in with Hoola bronzer because I don't really recall ever going wrong with Hoola. Okay, so now that I'm hitting the forehead, I totally just went in without even thinking about it, and that might happen to you too. It's fine, so I'm just going to lightly dust over. Because this is a powder, it's not going to have as much weight as a cream or liquid bronzer would. So if you do like forget like I did and go up there, it's no big deal. It's the same. It's really not that big of a deal. I really just go light up there just because like I don't want to waste my time or product. Now I'm going to go ahead and contour my face. Again, personal preference. I just like to look really chiseled when I'm wearing a hat. Basically, when I'm wearing a hat, I like to look like one of those basic Instagram girls with the hoops. And, you know, just want to look as cut as possible. But that's not to say that's what you have to do when you're wearing a hat. Like, this is just, the only time I ever wear a hat is when I want to look like one. Okay, when it comes to the eyes, depending on the hat you're wearing, you really want to base it off of it. If you're wearing a beanie or something that doesn't come out and cast a shadow, it really doesn't matter what you do. That's completely personal preference. But if you're wearing a hat that casts a shadow, go light on the eyes. Because there's already so much darkness down here that it's, you just go light. So I would just, at this point, I mean, do this throughout your whole routine, but take a step back and put your hat on and see how you look right now and what features you want to define or, reduce. I'm happy where this is at. So, yeah, and I would not recommend going in with any lashes, because that's, unless they're very natural. I forget that there's actually natural lashes, but like, don't go in with like a full, really, really intense strip lash. Like, don't go in with that. I'd recommend, if you do have to go in with lashes, go in with like Ardell Wispies or the individuals. The complementary color of blue is orange, so I'm going to do kind of more like a really simple bronzed eye. Once again, kind of light. I mean, when I say light, I'm not like no makeup. Just don't do like a full, intense, black smoky eye. That's basically what I'm getting at. Like, you want to make sure that you, like, what is your normal, go lighter than that. You'll see. So I'm just going to do my eyes real quick. Don't think I'm going to film it because there's really no point. It really just depends on what you're going to be doing. Okay, I finished the eyes, and like, as you can see, they're not like super light and natural and like no makeup, but they're not super intense in your face, heavy. Okay, so what I forgot to do, I mean, this is a good time now, but I would have done it before I did my eyes, is set my face. And I'm going to be using a luminous spray. So this is Fix Plus by Mac, and it's really going to melt the powders in. So at this point, if you're not happy with all the matte drying products, just go in with some spray, and this will completely change it. And then make sure you go in and fan it out, and this will lock it in. You'll have a nice, healthy, luminous glow without having to compromise your foundation. So make sure it's entirely dry though before you go in and put your hat on, because otherwise it will move. Okay, and then I'm gonna go in, like, do your lips however you want. They're not going to affect the hat, like, really, like, at all. And that's really it. There's not much more to do after that. If anything, I don't know why I said much more, but yeah, so I hope this was, I hope you learned something, even if it was just one thing, or like a different tip. Go ahead and try out this, not this look, but these tips and tricks, and, you know, let me know if they work for you. I have like 2 followers, so chances are I'm gonna see if you told me, and I will be able to get back to you. Yeah, so thank you for watching. Like and subscribe and do all of the things that all of the people say, and I hope I wasn't too awkward in this. I know I was awkward, I know, but I hope it wasn't too much. I hope it has been reduced.